It was lunchtime on the 3rd of February 2025 at All Saints Catholic High School in Sheffield. Security cameras in the corridors captured 15-year-old Mohammed Umar Khan confronting his classmate, Harvey Willgoose, also 15. In the grainy footage, Khan can be seen aggressively shoving Harvey. Khan reaches into his jacket pocket and produces a 13-centimeter serrated hunting knife. He stabs him twice in the chest, delivering one fatal blow that pierced Harvey's heart. Harvey collapses to the ground, mortally wounded. A nearby teacher bravely intervenes. Security cameras later showed Khan bizarrely pacing and gesturing in the cafeteria, an act some described as him dancing. In the chaotic minutes that followed, staff and students frantically tended to Harvey and alerted the authorities. Police and paramedics rushed to the scene. Despite efforts to save him, Harvey Willgoose lost consciousness within a minute of being stabbed and could not be revived. He was pronounced dead from his injuries, a fatal wound to the heart. Just weeks before the killing, Harvey and Khan had been friends. Both were Year 10 pupils at All Saints, a Catholic secondary school. That changed in late January 2025, when a fight broke out between two other students at the school. Harvey and Khan ended up taking opposite sides in that dispute. Friends recall the two boys falling out in the days after the fight, and an atmosphere of hostility replaced their former friendship.
And in the arguments that weekend, Umar put, "You were my first boy." They were friends, and I think Umar, how I see it, is Umar has been bullied in the past, and I believe that. And I think he was flattered that Harvey were everybody's friend. He wanted everybody to be friends. They once said to me in his school, when he were in primary school, Harvey's very popular. He never argues or has any trouble with anybody. But if there's anybody that's having an argument, he gets involved. And sometimes it's the right thing to do and sometimes it's the wrong thing to do. And in this case, it's the same. And it's cost him his life. He was trying to get them to be friends, these two groups.
In turn, Khan would later claim that he too felt threatened. The exact content of their private exchanges remains undisclosed. Peer dynamics at school compounded the tension. Students at All Saints were aware that Khan had a turbulent history.
There you go.
This isolation deepened Khan's resentment. Mrs. Justice Naomi Ellenbogen, who later heard the case, noted that Khan acted out of hurt and anger at what he considered to be Harvey's betrayal of their friendship. Khan was born in November 2009 and grew up in a deeply troubled home environment. According to evidence presented by his defense, he endured difficulties at home throughout his childhood. There were reports of Khan and his siblings suffering physical and emotional abuse from family members, as well as periods of malnourishment. His mother reportedly struggled with serious mental health issues. Khan himself had certain medical problems. Notably, he had to wear a urological catheter, a condition that caused him embarrassment and made him a target of bullying by other kids, which eroded his self-esteem. Khan's difficulties at home and the bullying at school manifested in behavioral problems from a young age. He was described as disruptive and hot-tempered in class. In fact, he had already been involved in violence at a previous school. Only about 15 weeks before the stabbing, Khan had transferred to All Saints Catholic High School from another secondary school. Reportedly, after he assaulted a fellow pupil, his enrollment at All Saints was conditional. He was put on a behavioral probation period with designated teachers monitoring him. By early 2025, Khan had just passed that probation, seemingly adjusting to the new school. Between November 2024 and January 2025, there were at least 3 separate incidents of Khan becoming angry and aggressive toward others or damaging property at school. Perhaps most alarming was Khan's growing obsession with weapons, especially knives. He started collecting knives, even bringing some to school on occasion. During the trial, prosecutors revealed that Khan kept numerous photos and videos on his phone of himself posing with blades, including large hunting knives and machetes. In one video, he brandished an Assassin's Creed-style knife in a menacing manner. He later claimed these images were meant to warn others not to mess with him, but authorities saw it as evidence of a thrill for violence. In December 2024, only 2 months before Harvey's murder, Khan's own mother felt so alarmed by his behavior that she called the police on her son. She had discovered a small axe hidden in Khan's school bag at home and feared what he might do with it. Police officers came to their home and confiscated the weapon. However, due to UK law, they did not arrest or charge Khan at that time. Possession of a blade was only illegal in a public place, and since the axe was found at home and Khan denied any intent to use it, the officers could not prove a crime. Instead, they gave Khan safety advice, essentially a stern warning about the dangers of carrying weapons. Khan was told not to do it again and was left in the care of his family. On February 3rd, 2025, both Harvey and Khan were scheduled to attend the same science class around 11:10 a.m. They each arrived a few minutes late. According to the teacher and students present, the two squared up to each other. Though it's unclear, one of the boys challenged the other to take this outside. The science teacher separated them. Harvey went straight to assistant head of Year 10. On his way, he confided in another student that something was about to happen. Harvey reported that Khan had pretended to take something out of his trousers, implying Khan was acting as if he had a weapon on him. Just after 12:10 p.m., the lunch break began. Students flooded out of classrooms toward the cafeteria and courtyard. Harvey was seen chatting with his friends, trying to act normal and enjoy the break. But Khan was looking for him. CCTV cameras captured Khan prowling through the school halls, clearly on edge. At one point, video showed Khan holding the knife inside his jacket as he walked near the cafeteria. He had smuggled a 13-centimeter serrated hunting knife into school that day, tucked in his coat pocket. Earlier that morning, before leaving home, Khan had even searched online for a prayer to keep him safe. The final encounter came outside the cafeteria in a courtyard area. Khan confronted Harvey near a set of picnic tables as other kids ate lunch. A brief altercation ensued, during which Khan suddenly punched Harvey and gave him a hard push. Witnesses recalled seeing Khan yank something from his pocket. He pulled out the concealed knife and lunged at Harvey's chest, then withdrew and stabbed him again. Footage from moments after the stabbing showed Khan's bizarre demeanor. He walked into the cafeteria area near the scene and appeared to wave his arms and move in a dance-like motion. Some witnesses thought he might be celebrating. Others later speculated it was a coping mechanism or adrenaline-fueled hysteria. Several attended to Harvey, who was lying on the ground bleeding heavily. They administered first aid as best they could, applying pressure to his wounds. The school's head teacher confronted Khan, who was still nearby, now unarmed. It was then that Khan uttered the disjointed statements. "I'm not right in the head. My mum doesn't look after me right," he told the head teacher, claiming he couldn't control himself. Paramedics and police officers flooded the school grounds. Students were kept in classrooms as a lockdown was imposed. Paramedics fought to save Harvey's life on the scene, performing CPR. He had lost consciousness almost immediately after the stabbing and showed no signs of recovery. The medics had to pronounce the 15-year-old dead, right there on the school's courtyard. It was around 12:15 p.m. when Harvey succumbed to his injuries, only minutes after he was attacked. The 15-year-old was arrested at the school on suspicion of murder. Officers then began the task of securing evidence. The murder weapon was recovered and bagged as evidence. Later, When asked why he chose that particular knife, Khan admitted he bought it because it looked scary. The days following Harvey Willgoose's death saw an outpouring of grief from the Sheffield community. Piles of flowers, cards, and candles accumulated outside the school's entrance on Granville Road. His mother, Caroline, described Harvey as a fun-loving kid, a cheeky, chappy, sociable kid who was loved by everyone. She said she wanted him remembered for his warmth and humor, not for the horrific way he died. Harvey Willgoose was a big fan of the local football club, Sheffield United. In a touching tribute, hundreds of people joined a march on the 8th of February 2025, walking from Sheffield Town Hall to Sheffield United's stadium in memory of Harvey. As for Mohammed Umar Khan, he was quickly charged with Harvey's murder. Given his age, he was initially not named in the press due to legal restrictions protecting minors. Early news reports referred to him only as a 15-year-old boy when mentioning the arrest. From the outset, Mohammed Umar Khan admitted that he stabbed Harvey. That fact was never in dispute. However, when it came to the charges, Khan's legal team put forth a partial defense. They argued he should be guilty of manslaughter, not murder, due to diminished responsibility or loss of control, forcing the case to trial. The trial began in mid-2025 at Sheffield Crown Court. Because Khan was a minor, the courtroom had initially imposed reporting restrictions. The press could report the proceedings, but could not publish Khan's name or identifying details until any conviction. Over several weeks, a jury heard extensive evidence painting two starkly different pictures of why the killing happened. Prosecutors argued forcefully that this was a cold-blooded, intentional murder. The prosecutor described Khan as a teenager with a long-standing interest in weapons who knew exactly what he was doing. They presented evidence that Khan had deliberately armed himself on the day of the attack, concealing the hunting knife in his outfit, showing forethought and planning. Camera footage was a centerpiece of the prosecution's case. Jurors were shown video from inside the school, one clip from that morning in the hallway, where Khan can be seen trying to provoke Harvey, while Harvey appeared to remain calm in response. Most damning was the actual courtyard surveillance showing the stabbing itself. Jurors watched in horror as Khan punched Harvey and then stabbed him twice before Harvey collapsed. The prosecution argued this was an act of retribution. Khan wanted to get back at Harvey for something in their feud. To further undermine Khan's claim of losing control, prosecutors brought up his behavior in the days and hours leading up to the killing. They revealed Khan's ominous internet searches and his interest in rage rooms. They highlighted that he had ignored a friend's plea to disarm on the day of the attack, indicating he was resolute about carrying the knife. When they searched Khan's phone and bedroom, they found a trove of weapons-related content, photos of Khan posing with a machete and other knives, video of him twirling a blade, and even a selfie where he held the very knife used to kill Harvey. All this, the prosecution said, pointed to premeditation and intent. The defense built a narrative of a bullied, broken boy who finally exploded. They claimed that Khan had endured a long period of bullying, poor treatment, and violence directed at him, and that these experiences built up one upon another until he lost control on that fateful day. According to the defense, Khan truly believed he was under threat. They said that morning's confrontation instilled genuine fear in Khan, leading him to arm himself for self-protection. Khan took the witness stand in his own defense, a rare move for someone accused of murder, especially a juvenile. Speaking softly and often clutching a fidget toy for comfort, Khan told the jury about the abuse and harassment he felt at school. He recounted being called racial slurs and being mocked for his catheter medical condition. He described feeling isolated and afraid, saying, "I was upset all of the time and suffered anxiety and sleeplessness as a result." Khan asserted that on multiple occasions he had been physically assaulted or threatened by other students. In one instance, he claimed, "A boy warned him, 'I will stab you up,' which left him terrified." The defense leaned on these accounts to justify why Khan started carrying a knife. Not to be a thug, they said, but because he truly feared for his safety in a school environment that had failed to protect him. Crucially, the defense invoked the concept of loss of control, a partial defense to murder under UK law. They argued that Khan experienced a sudden and total breakdown of self-control due to an accumulation of provocations and a triggering incident. Mr. Hussain, his lawyer, phrased it poignantly. Harvey became the final straw that broke Khan. A consultant clinical psychologist had evaluated Khan and noted he had an anger management problem, as well as certain cognitive limitations. The court heard that Khan's intellectual abilities were in the very low average range, with particular weaknesses in processing language quickly. Under normal conditions, he could communicate and comprehend, but in high-pressure situations, his ability to think clearly might be severely impaired. Throughout the trial, Harvey's family sat in the courtroom, listening to this painful testimony. Emotions ran high. Harvey's mother, Caroline, occasionally had to leave the courtroom in tears, unable to bear certain details. His sister Sophie, a schoolteacher herself, later said of Khan, "He's a 15-year-old boy. We'd like to think that he didn't want to murder Harvey. He's just from a troubled background, and services have let him down." On the 8th of August, the jury delivered its verdict. After more than 14 hours of deliberation, they found Mohammed Umar Khan guilty of Harvey Willgoose's murder by a majority of 11 to 1. Khan stood in the dock as the foreman announced the verdict. He showed no visible reaction, staring straight ahead. Outside the courthouse, Harvey's family spoke to the media. His older sister, Sophie Willgoose, delivered a powerful statement on behalf of the family, describing her brother as full of life, a warm, funny, caring boy who had a unique ability to bring people together. She also extended thanks to the community for their support and vowed that in Harvey's memory they would continue to speak out against knife crime. On the 22nd of October, Mohammed Umar Khan returned to Sheffield Crown Court for sentencing. By now, he was 16 years old. At the start of the hearing, Mrs. Justice Ellenbogen made a consequential ruling. Given the seriousness of the crime and the public interest, she lifted the reporting restrictions on Khan's identity. This was an unusual step, as British courts often keep juveniles anonymous, but the judge noted that Khan's age alone did not justify anonymity for such a grave offence. When Khan was brought into the dock, he was described as wearing a black hoodie, appearing small and younger than his 16 years. He showed no emotion as proceedings began. When it came time for the judge's remarks, Mrs. Justice Ellenbogen delivered a thorough and stern commentary on the case.
A knife which, in your words, you had bought because it was scary. Your history of carrying weapons, including on school grounds, the fact that your offence took place on school premises, and the fact that numerous pupils and teachers were present at the time are all aggravating factors in this case.
The judge gave the sentence, detention for life with a minimum term of 16 years. In practical terms, this means Khan will serve at least 16 years in custody before he is even eligible for parole review. The judge clarified that Khan had already spent 259 days in custody pre-sentencing, which would count toward his term. The case indeed had highlighted gaps, such as the ease with which a 15-year-old purchased a large knife online and brought it into school undetected. An independent review into the circumstances of Harvey's death was announced. aiming to investigate whether any warning signs were missed by authorities and what could be improved in the future. In the end, the story of Harvey Willgoose's murder is one of the most tragic and sobering episodes of youth violence in recent Sheffield history. Harvey Willgoose's story, though unbearably sad, stands as a stark reminder of the devastating cost of knife violence.